Got this question here from Jose Liz. Do you think Nintendo would have been better served by having the Switch 2 cost another $50 to $100, but match Series S performance? Do you agree that would have been achievable with a slightly better NVIDIA GPU? I don't know about you, John. I actually think, based on what we've seen so far, Nintendo actually made and indeed NVIDIA made a pretty good call with what they've done with the Switch 2 SoC.
I would say so, but beyond the actual technical results, may I ask him to go check out the sales for the Nintendo Switch 2? It seems to be among the fastest selling console, if not the fastest selling consoles ever.
Yes.
So given those numbers, I'm going to go ahead and say that Nintendo probably made exactly the right choice, because anything more, like, I think the price was already slightly borderline for some.
Yep.
Being higher than Switch 1, but it's still selling like crazy. But if you go up to like $600 or more, I think that's too much. I think that actually would have genuinely hurt its success. Yeah. Like, it would have still found success, but I think it would absolutely have hurt its sales overall. So I think they managed to work something out that delivers what they need hardware wise, while also coming in at the price budget, or at the price that they require. So
yeah, Switch 2 Pro though, it's the future.
Yeah.
Oliver, what do you make about this? I mean, here's the thing, right? I mean, the whole sort of run up to the Switch 2 release, we knew about the specs for years basically, and there was always a concern that it was a bit anemic, and there were concerns about the process node, which essentially came to nothing apart from a slightly reduced battery life compared to expectations. But even then, it's probably the most efficient modern handheld available.
It is.
I mean, they could have made a bigger GPU. I guess they would have had to have paired it with faster memory modules to actually get the most out of that extra compute. But, what can I say? I think when we did, simulations of Switch 2 and when we talked about Switch 2 specs, literally at the end of every video, I said, look, if you think this is looking a bit anemic, just remember that the Switch 1 actually was a properly anemic technical specification, but developers worked miracles with it. And we've already seen that kind of stuff happening with Switch 2, right?
Yeah, I would say there are a couple factors that make this a little bit more complicated. First of all, you're only dealing with a node shrink from like 8 nanometers / 10 nanometers, a hybrid of those two nodes, to maybe 5 nanometers or 4 nanometers, which are the kind of most advanced extant nodes that a company like NVIDIA might have access to at the moment. 3 nanometers would have been out of the question, is out of the question right now for a graphics product, and would have been out of the question at the time of the Switch 2's launch. That kind of shrink, I mean, it's not been the case with other graphics products that would lead to like a doubling of graphics performance, which is what we're talking about here. Also, the memory bandwidth situation, because I think the Switch 2 is 6,400 megatransfers per second memory, at least in docked mode, on a 128-bit memory bus. Now, at the moment, if you wanted to do faster, I mean, I know there are mobile products with like 7,500 mega transfers per second memory, even PC handhelds with like 9,600 mega transfers per second memory, but we're not getting a corresponding increase in memory bandwidth unless you go with an even wider memory bus, which is not really feasible on a device of this size. So I think those are our key questions. Even at the moment, when we look at PC handhelds at 20 watts, those are generally, probably comparably efficient, if not substantially less efficient than Switch 2 at delivering high quality visuals, right? Even though those are using much more advanced process nodes. That's an AMD versus NVIDIA thing, but again, kind of militates against the idea that this is necessarily going to be an easy win in terms of achieving Series S performance. Series S performance is a pretty high target for a machine like this. I don't think it's feasible. Now, if I could go back in time and tell Nintendo, hey, Switch 2, even though you're taping out a chip for it in 2021, we're not going to be shipping this thing until 2025. Maybe they make different decisions. Maybe they choose a newer process. Maybe they choose newer architecture. But I think given the constraints they're probably faced with, Switch 2 is doing a good job. And I'm not necessarily sure that they could have shipped a similarly large chip on 5 nanometers that would have been feasible at all. Certainly, and that chip would have had a performance uplift like this user is suggesting. I don't think that's necessarily the case at all.